Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Cinder Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits, so get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Robin Elander, and Robin is the Executive Director of Downtown Santa Barbara. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh gosh, there's so much going on these days
There is.
Downtown Santa Barbara. So let's just dive in, and you want to talk about an initiative, you want to talk, what would you like to talk about first?
Oh, wow. Well, there's so much going on, like you said. There's a downtown master planning process going
Yes,
on, and
yes.
so that's a really important moment in time. We've reached some milestones on that project, and the future is really exciting, I think, for downtown. This is one of those projects that is going to help us leap into the next 30 to 50 years. And so it's essentially, it's a redesign of a bit of the look and feel for what's now been known as our State Street Promenade. And so it has an opportunity to really change the way the streetscape looks, the sidewalks, how, the different art elements come into play. And so that is a really exciting community process. I'm part of something.
Master plan.
Yeah, a big master plan. It's been undergoing for about a year. We have about a half year to maybe another, around a half year more or so to go to complete that process that will ultimately be adopted by City Council. And so we've had more than 6,000 people have submitted input, whether it's through a survey or many different workshops going forward. And so it's a collaboration amongst many people. And there's a State Street Advisory Committee that's made up of about 15 community members that are supporting this process. And I'm one of those people on that committee.
Okay, so the advisory committee is taking all of the sort of comments and feedback from all these thousands of people. Plus, I'm sure you're working with a professional with the master plan.
Absolutely. So there's a city staff person. Tess Harris is the master planner for the city. And then the city has hired a consulting firm called MIG. And Strategic Economics. So they're collaborating on this process and kind of then shepherding it through. And they have many different experts working on different elements of it, because it's really a big thing to make a downtown tick. And so you need a lot of different expertise to pull that together.
So you've been working on it for about a year, you say, and maybe you've got another 6 months or so left.
Right.
So what would you say to someone who's saying, hey, what's happening here? Would you say just have a little patience, have a little faith that we're
Yeah, I'd say, well, first get involved.
all right.
Get involved, and then, share your input, and then also listen to the input from others, because once we bring all of that together into a pot, that's when you get really good solutions. And so it's really making sure that everybody's voices are heard. And there is a lot of voices being heard right now. We're a passionate community full of opinions, but we are a community that gets really involved in civic process.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of hubbub about what's happening downtown. And, there's what you see now downtown is really not going to be the same way you see it in the future. And so I think what people really want to see change on that, and that change is taking place. There's kind of experimentation going on right now, and over time, more things will get solidified in terms of a proper design, because really we've been operating under sort of a pandemic sort of test that, the community seemed to really like. But there's aspects that are not working yet. And so they still need pivoting, innovation, and continuation of that process.
So you would say to people, come on, get involved and understand that there are other opinions besides yours.
Right.
And so it'd be a good idea if you listen to other people and learn, and then let's all work together and have faith in the fact that we're going the right direction, and all along the way there will be input by all kinds of people. And
Absolutely.
we've got experts that are leading the charge.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great. Well, all right. So, let's talk about the parklets. There's a lot going on with that.
So that was something that also came out of the pandemic, which is a great opportunity for businesses to be able to expand their space outside. And what's crazy and surprising is how much our community didn't have much of that going on before. It only had so many outdoor spaces that people were eating in restaurants. And so, yes, we have a number of structures that are along State Street, is also on some of the side streets that people love or hate, right? And so a
Yes.
lot of people really enjoy them. They're really great for business and they're great for the community to feel safe and also enjoy the space. Some of the things that people have said that, are concerns and are being worked through is how some of the structures interfere with seeing the architecture of downtown. And so over time, I think those things will get adapted. Over the last something like 6 months, there were some design requirements that were updated. And so now there's a little bit more uniform look, and that will keep changing over time.
Okay. All right. And so I think some of the parklets had to sort of make some changes because of certain amount of restrictions in terms of letting people with disabilities go down the
Yeah, so I mean,
sidewalk.
ADA accessibility is an absolute must.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, some of these things were in the beginning made rather makeshift and didn't have everything in order. And so over time, people have needed to get into compliance. And if they didn't, they ultimately could have made modifications. They've been notified a number of times. And then after that process, they were able to make an appeal. And ultimately, the city council in recent times didn't find that those appeals really were appropriate they essentially denied the appeals. And so the whole idea is we want to make these spaces absolutely accessible to all.
Yes.
And so, those are some of the things that are critical to have a safe and inspired and, economically vibrant space for all to enjoy, but you also need to make sure that it's accessible for everybody to use.
Yes.
And so those that are out there right now need to have those accessible spaces. And so that's been part of the process because, whenever you build sort of a normal structure, that is necessary. And so these structures were built and they were intended to be ADA accessible, but not everybody knew how to do that in a quick turnaround. And so now everybody has learned or is keep trying to learn because, that's emergent for folks, but that's something that is been a topic of conversation for
Yes,
sure.
it sure is. Yeah, everybody's got an opinion about that.
Right.
Well, let's see. Okay, so let's just, before we leave the parklets, what about, I hear people talk sometimes, parklets, restaurants versus the retail stores. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Is there really that much of a problem there?
Retail and restaurants tend to have a synergistic relationship.
You would think so.
Usually. And so when someone comes out to a restaurant, they usually meander and mingle around in a retail space. Where there's been issues is where people may have said yes in the early portion of the pandemic for a business to expand in front of their venue. And so in recent history, they've needed to readjust those spaces so that they have more visibility for in front of those spaces.
Okay.
And so restaurants and retailers are learning to be more, they're already synergistic, but looking for ways to work even more in harmony, whether they're offering special perks to a neighboring retailer that they find out about at the restaurant, etc. But in general, I think, sometimes you see in the media way more conflict than there actually is. Really, a lot of our businesses work very well together, but then sometimes you kind of hear some higher voices that come out here and there to, express opinions.
Yeah. I figured that was the case. So really, the restaurant owners and the retailers, they talk to each other all the time and make necessary adjustments.
Some do and some don't. And we're encouraging people to do more of that. And actually, in the near future and ongoing, we're establishing more of a retail focused collaborative kind of committee in order to further facilitate that. Because during the pandemic, the restaurant community really came together to work on things that were sort of like life or death for their business at the time. The retail community didn't do that during the same time, and so now we're trying to build and lift that group up even more, support collaborations, neighborhood sort of activations, and then also create more of that synergy between the restaurants. There are pockets of that going on, but there's an opportunity for more.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So, and what about occupancy? So it seems like I read the other day that there were 29 empty spaces on State Street. Is that true? And what are we doing to sort of fill those up?
Yeah, really good question. So, our downtown, like other downtowns across the nation, have really faced a lot of changes in terms of just the climate for business in downtowns, but also the amount of office tenants is really changed. And so across the nation, people were working out of offices with large businesses, and a lot of those office folks are either working remotely completely or have only returned to some degree. And so you're seeing a combination of quite a number of office vacancies.
Okay.
But those contribute to other vacancies because there's not the same level of saturation of workers in the area that go to a restaurant or go to a retailer. And then there's also change in the economics for retailing as well because of, things like Amazon or others. But, there's a lot of dynamics going on there. And I think that, we're actually doing quite a bit better than some communities. We recently had a conversation with the economic forecast that UCSB puts on. And, in comparison to cities like San Francisco, New York, urban spaces have really changed. And I think what we need to do about that as a community is really explore the next phase of downtown. And that's what we're doing with this master plan, and trying to invigorate new housing downtown as well as additional uses for these spaces. And so we have an economic development committee. We are trying to create new pathways to open doors, literally and figuratively, with the real estate agents and then supportive networks. There's a lot of really great resources, but bringing those together, whether it's Women's Economic Ventures, the Economic Development Collaborative, groups like SCORE, helping small businesses get ready to be able to move in, because a lot of landlords need to see sort of all of the things to pencil out. And sometimes a new business doesn't have that, and it's harder for them to say yes. And so we're trying to create that entry package that is a little bit more like, wow, you're supported by all these groups and you've got your stuff together, they've got the pitch. That is something that's emergent. I think we're trying to see more of, and we are seeing some success with that, and I expect to see more.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's great. I had no idea you were working with them. That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, lots of good collaboration.
Lots of good collaboration.
So I know there are a lot of initiatives going on, which let's pick another one and talk about.
Okay, so we are also working on a community benefit improvement district.
Okay.
So these are commonplace across the nation and really the world, but right now we operate under something called a business improvement district. So a business-based improvement district, which is a fee on a business license, and it goes into sort of a fund in order to support downtown. Well, that was started in the 70s, and it's sort of an out-of-date model. It still works, it still has its value, but a more common best practice is a community benefit improvement district, and it's a way for a district to come together and to essentially self-assess themselves in order to create a certain new fund base to put together more services that district feels are necessary. And so with that, we've developed a steering committee of community members, property owners who want to make this investment in downtown. And so we've been kind of going through this and evaluating what services folks want to see. And those services range from maintenance, security, placemaking, branding, and then the programming and services that kind of bring that all together. And so in the next several months, we'll be going out to the community to really share more about this. And so this is a parallel process to our master planning process. And collectively, these initiatives really have the opportunity to build the infrastructure, that some of that missing infrastructure that's needed to kind of build a downtown and give it the diverse sort of mechanisms that pull the pieces together.
It is so complex.
It is complex.
And here you are right in the middle of it, coordinating all of it.
It's a big team. It's a collaboration. This project is in collaboration with the South Coast Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, okay.
And a steering committee of something like 15 or so property owners and their conduits to all of their tenants. So it's pretty exciting. We also are working with an expert who's done 92 of these districts across the nation, and so really is helping us work through these. There was recently one that's been completed on Coast Village Drive that folks may have heard of, and that's just going into fruition. You're starting to see some services there.
Well, that's pretty exciting.
It really is exciting.
Sort of a test drive.
Right. And then ours would expand the district into the Funk Zone and the beach to have some more cohesiveness all the way down through State Street, Chapala, Anacapa, all the way to Garden Street, and then right and left about 2 blocks on Cabrillo. So that whole area currently has kind of a mix of services that are not all the same, and so this would really create the same level of cleaning, maintenance, landscaping, etc., to just kind of have a certain high level experience that Santa Barbarans and visitors to Santa Barbara want to see.
Gosh, well, and when you say visitors, I think I've read that we have an average 30,000 visitors a day, 360
absolutely
here in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, so we have not only the cruise ships come in, but we have many people in the drive market. We have Europeans that are coming in all over the market. Visit Santa Barbara is the entity that really does great work marketing our city externally. We kind of do the marketing internal and support our business community, and then they take that information and get it out to the world.
Yeah, so we have to think about all of our people that are here, but we also have to understand that the visitors, they contribute a lot to our, for our benefit. And so it's a big complex picture that we have to pull together.
It really is. And I think what our community really needs to recognize is we have like world-class cultural institutions, businesses, etc. But we also, minus the tourism, we're a pretty small community. And so our community who actually has dollars to spend in terms of like the age group and that type of thing, we're about 80 or so thousand people. Something like 30 to 40,000 people of that spectrum are the ones that are sort of making our businesses run in the community. And so sometimes, we really need to take that into consideration as to how many things we are trying to support locally, as well as bringing in our tourism. So when we had that sort of momentary blip, a lot changed, in the marketplace, and I think is still changing.
Yeah.
But it's an exciting time for downtown. A lot's going on. We're doing quite a lot of new programming as well, new music series on often on Wednesdays, we have these Rock the Block Party events
Yes.
that are family oriented and bring people down during the week for a way to highlight different seasonal type things. So we have anything from a summer fest to a Friendsgiving oriented block party. We have Halloween oriented ones. So our community definitely likes to celebrate the seasons and likes to come out and enjoy spending time together. So we create a lot of opportunities for that while sort of supporting and marketing the whole district.
Yeah. So I think that I think I heard you say that you're also, kind of looking at other cities and downtown, other cities downtown area. What's working for them? What can we learn from them? Is that what something?
Absolutely. So
doing as
not
well?
only the master plan is looking at those cities as a comparative basis
Okay.
way to kind of evaluate what we might be able to do with cities of similar sizes, cities of similar tourism or seasons, that kind of thing. And so we're looking at that, and then also, you know, regionally what's going on. But yeah, there's a lot of comparisons to be made with Boulder,
Oh,
some aspects of Copenhagen in some regards because
really?
there's so much interest in bicycling there, and
Uh-huh.
we're rated, you know, one of the top bicycling cities in the nation. And so there's just a lot of great nuggets of information that we can find from places, and we're exploring all those opportunities.
That's great. So now, when you say bicycles, so there's a lot of people that have different, let's just say, different opinions
Certainly.
about bikes, no bikes, certain kind of bikes, yes, no, on State Street.
Right.
What, tell us about that.
Right. Well, so there's a lot to say about that, but ultimately, our community really is into active transportation. It's
Yes.
absolutely a community that really is, you know, it's where we founded Earth Day. It's an environmental community. So there are a lot of people out on bikes, and it's a great way to get around. And our community really is a very bikeable community. And so we do have a lot of bikes that are pedestrians and bikes that are coming downtown. And so because we're in this experimental moment with our
Yes,
promenade,
yes.
there isn't yet a designated sort of path for bikes or for pedestrians. And so it's become this kind of meandering experiment. And so what is next in the process is really testing out different configurations of separation between
Okay.
bikes and pedestrians. And of course, some people don't want any bikes at all in downtown. But that said, that's not really good for business or good for our city overall, because really we are a bike oriented city. And so it's finding a way for everybody to work well together. So it's safe, it's enjoyable, it makes sense not only for the users of bikes or wheeled devices like scooters, and for families to be able to enjoy and really feel that sort of, you know, the feeling that a promenade, that word brings, just sort of like a free space to enjoy and feel like a park-like setting.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the challenges we're facing is right now there's some of that, but there's also not sort of the separation. And so in order to make this all work, we need to find a way to make that work.
Yeah, and I think that it seems to me that the operative word is experimenting.
Yes.
Because the goal is to get to the best solution that works for the most number of people,
Absolutely.
right? And so you can come up with some ideas, but then let's test them to see. And the only way that you're going to find out if it's a good idea or not is to test it,
Absolutely.
experiment a little bit. And so once again, maybe some patience or understanding would be helpful from other
Absolutely.
people.
And on the same vein, you know, supporting one another, and also e-bikes are an emergent new device, you
Yes.
know? And so in the past, you know, when a kid learns how to ride a bike on sort of a traditional bike, it has only a certain speed it can go, right? And it takes a certain amount of learning to use it. but it's not as uh, powerful of a device. And so now when people are getting these new devices, it's really about educating kids not only in schools but families about how to ride respectfully.
Yes, yes,
Because
yes.
these kids are on something, and adults and everybody, but they get a vehicle that's like got some speed and they're gonna try it out. But they don't have a driver's license yet. They
Yeah.
haven't had education around biking. And so I think that that's an emergent thing for all communities that
Yes,
they're
yes.
grappling with. So it's not just a Santa Barbara thing, but I think our community is seeing that play out in sort of our heart of our community. And so they're just sort of seeing a
Yeah.
phenomenon that is happening across the nation
That's a good thing to
in
remember.
in real time.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to see that change over time. I know that the city's working on a new ordinance to support with more of a safe sort of speed and educational element there. So I think we're going to see that be coming out too.
Okay, so you think there's kind of an effort to educate the kids and parents too about responsible bike riding.
Right, right.
So are there groups doing that, or how
Yeah,
is it happening?
absolutely. So there's what used to be the Santa Barbara Bicycle Coalition
Yes,
and the Coalition for Sustainable Transportation have merged, and now they've become an organization called Move Santa Barbara. And so they do a lot of bike education in schools and in camps and things of that nature. And so they're taking a leadership effort in that space. Also, it's something that the schools are aware of, and they're taking initiative to some degree as well. And so we're also looking at how other cities have done some of these initiatives, and sometimes they have to take a course in a school to get a sort of a safety certificate
Good.
to be able to ride their e-bike to school, which also sort of helps them to ride safely through the community.
Yeah, that's a great idea. What about the vendors of the bicycles, the bike shops? Are they doing anything to, I don't know, educate the kids?
I think it's emergent. I think that they are realizing that that's a space that they might be able to contribute more. And we just actually had a new business open up that sells a lot of our sort of e-bikes that I think is going to probably have some aspect of being a positive contributor to this conversation for sure.
That is great. All right, so there's so much going on. I bet if a person wants to find out more about any of these topics, or if they want to make a tax-deductible financial donation, they can go on your website and find out about how they can volunteer, how they can be a part of gathering information, giving their opinions, or contributing any expertise they have. There's a lot, I bet, on your website.
Absolutely. We have not only a database and sort of a way that you can explore all of our different businesses in the district. We represent more than 1,700 businesses in the downtown. But we also have volunteer opportunities at our events and programs, whether we're doing downtown cleanup days, what we call beautification days, which are cleaning up a little bit of extra garbage here and there, and then also trying to remove any graffiti and just really create a space that people want to return to all the time. And so lots of programming. We're always looking for sponsors to support our programming, and also special initiatives that we can help lift up our business community, as well as creating programs that our community really wants to see.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow, Robin, you've got so much going on. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing that benefits all of us.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about it today.
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Of course.
And thanks for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.